Good morning, everybody. We'll just allow just a quick minute for people to start making their way in. There's a lot of people that have registered for today's session. It'll be very interesting. So we'll just give them just a little while just to start flowing in. Welcome to you wherever you are in Australia or New Zealand. And we've also got some people registered from across Asia as well, which is great to see. Thanks very much for making your time available. Look, people will start coming in, I think, from now, but we'll kick off just given the interest of time. I just wanted to welcome you to this Aurion briefing series. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome everyone online. As you're currently joining, please, if you could grab a pad, maybe a pen, because we're going to be providing you with some really interesting information for you to think about when looking at strategies for strategic software implementation. My name is James Cashmore. I'll be moderating today's session, as I will with the other sessions that we'll be hosting in the coming weeks about software implementation generally, and how to avoid the common challenges that organisations face when embarking on selection and implementation of software projects. In the coming weeks, we'll cover different topics. Specifically, these will be, and if today's session will be optimal software selection for strategic alignment. Then in other sessions, we'll be talking about balancing resources for effective software implementation, setting the stage for project success, which will be important, overcoming obstacles for project timelines and budgets, measuring success. And then I think we're also going to have a session with the team, an interactive Q&A session on one of these. So I would encourage over the course of the next few weeks where you do have questions, please put them together, and then we'll have a really in-depth Q&A session that we can go through to be able to answer any questions that you might have. So how's it going to work? Well, in a few moments, I'm going to introduce you to the two hosts for today's session. We'll be sharing some of their amazing insights. But before I do, for those of you that are unfamiliar with Aurion, they're Australia's leading payroll organisation and have been supporting organisations of all sizes in all industries really for over 40 years. And they've got a range of solutions from SaaS to managed payroll. And the team at Aurion, they ensure organisations are navigating the complexities of payroll while staying compliant. Recently, Aurion was part of a major digital transformation for a national company that was run by today's guests, which are Kx2. And the team at Aurion really felt that the skills and knowledge that Kx2, brought to that project would be beneficial to other organisations to help them embark on their own digital transformations. And so we thank Aurion greatly for the opportunity to share this important content with you all. Today's briefing will be about 20 minutes, followed by further briefings, as I've just mentioned, in the next few months. But during our sessions, please have a think about questions. You can pop some into today's session. There's a Q&A section below. Please do that. Otherwise, as I said, just put some thought into them, and then we'll be able to cover them in the Q&A session separately. Being based here in Australia, we'd like to acknowledge and pay our respects to the traditional custodians of the lands on which we're gathered today. We pay our respects to elders past and present. Moving on to today's executive briefing, I'm delighted to welcome and introduce our two facilitators for the day, Karen Keynes and Karen Taylor. We'll call KK and KT for the purposes of the session. They are the co-founders and directors of Kx2 Management Group, which is a boutique digital transformation consultancy in Brisbane, with backgrounds in chartered accounting and business management. Together, they bring a very diverse industry experience, and their careers are aligned to streamlining businesses and processes and boosting efficiency. So welcome to you both, and thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, man. It's good to be here. Thank you.
No, that's fine. I mean, you guys are specialising in helping businesses with end-to-end software implementation. It's an important topic. I know that you help people a lot in sourcing the right fit software through right to project managing implementations, and then along with ongoing support and management. So those are pretty critical things. But the interesting thing in preparing for today's session is that you've got a 100% success rate in helping organisations big and small. So that's not an easy thing to have done, but I can imagine comes with a number of challenges. But no doubt your experience has really come to bear there. So as an introduction, I think what I'd really like to be able to understand is what are the common scenarios that organisations are facing, in their digital transformation roadmap. Guys, maybe if you could just share some top line thoughts with our audience today, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I would love to. And I think it'll help just people relate, I guess, to other organisations and the scenarios they're facing as well. So a lot of it seems to revolve around strategy for businesses and where they're at with setting strategy around digital transformation. So some businesses will have developed a roadmap for the next 2 to 5 years that looks at what they're going to do with regards to systems in that space. Other organisations might just be looking at automating a certain area or aspect of their system setup. Some other businesses that we've seen have reached the point where they have unsupported legacy systems. So either the platform that legacy system is sitting on is no longer going to be functioning, or they have adapted their initial legacy system so much that they can't actually upgrade it and need to find a new system. Businesses that are going through a lot of growth. So there are still some industries at the moment, even given the economy, that are experiencing some rapid growth. And therefore they are needing to expand on their system approach. And then there's others that are still in the process of moving from on-prem to cloud-based systems. Other businesses that might be doing cost reviews, or even businesses that have done an implementation already, but it's been an unsuccessful one, and they're looking at how they can revisit that implementation, either to redo or look at a completely different system. So there's a lot of different points in time, I guess, that we see businesses are looking to try and find new software. And these are just some of the examples that we've seen in the last couple of years, even just with how business is moving forward. Did you want to add?
It's usually you're actually governed to, or you're regulated to in certain industries for change. So, and then you have to look into this, and these common scenarios fit within those industries as well. They might have been considering it, but now they have to consider it. So yeah, it's definitely the most common scenarios that we do see with clients. Yeah. They could usually go tick, 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 this is me. And they might cross over with a couple of those scenarios, but yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? I mean, there's so much technology that's available to organizations for the moment. And I hear all the time, and, in talking to you in preparation for this, I mean, you're often seeing that organizations are just faced with an almost endless number of different solutions that could potentially be right for their organization. And so it's that really being able to understand what is it as an organization they actually need, what's the purpose that software or platform or technology is really going to be able to assist and help their organization, and how do they identify the right one, and probably those key factors. But a lot of it also really comes down to the alignment of the business, the overall business strategy, into then actually getting that right technology for their team.
Yeah, and James, it's one of the one key components that we love doing with all of our clients is the system architecture, and having a look at what systems they have, because people come and go, staff come and go, the attrition is high or low in some places, but there's always considerations of old systems that are sitting there doing something that could actually be enhanced. They might already have the function within their system architecture that they can consider. So we like coming in and having a look at that, and then seeing what we can supersede, what we can actually archive, what we can enhance, because it's not always about going and getting a new shiny system. They might have spent money a couple of years ago on a fandangle system, but they're not using all the bells and whistles at this point. So when we come in and have a look at the whole system architecture, it's really easy for us to identify gaps, and also, you know, it highlights some really stellar systems that they have within their system. So it's good to work with them like that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And just looking at, you know, where they've got lots of different data points as well, it just highlights some of those efficiencies that we really love to consider for businesses and their people. So yeah,
there's such a myriad of systems out there. There is such, you just feel overwhelmed. You sit there and go, I need a new payroll system, or I need a new ERP system. You don't look within. You don't then go and go, well, which one is the best fit for us? You've got to consider your industry. You've got to consider your modules within it that you actually want, and whether or not you have that ability already. If you have the capability within your staffing as well, bringing in a module where you can't resource it isn't ideal either. So it is very overwhelming for people. And usually in these common scenarios, we find that people have just thrown their hands up and just gone, it's just too hard. Just put it in the too hard basket, and we'll just, the devil that we know is better than the devil we don't, because they have to do business as usual. They have to wake up every day. They have to trade. They have to proceed with their business every day. And this coming in as a complexity on top of that is sometimes too much for people.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And you know, to everyone that's on call today, I mean, look, payroll could be you know, a technology that you're looking to put in. Maybe you've had a system and now you're looking to put a new one in, and Aurion could be an option that you're considering. But I think it's important that for us to be able to discuss, this really relates to any kind of technology platform or software that may be looking to be adopted. And I think, to your point, there are a lot of different legacy systems that people have. There are a lot of different systems that they need to actually integrate with other systems that they've got. There's new sort of areas and new staff that are being brought in, and as a result of that, there is a need to make sure that you are picking the right technology and therefore going to market correctly in order to make sure that you're getting the biggest bang for buck. What I think is also really important is that for you as a team to be able to provide an independent lens to, you know, people's processes in the selection of new technology is pretty important. So I suppose what I really wanted to then ask is, what are some of the really important considerations that businesses may need to consider that may impact, you know, that software selection or that technology selection? Do you have some thoughts around that?
We have lots of thoughts, you know that, James.
So yeah, I guess
them.
the important considerations, and if we can just maybe move to the next slide here. So looking to align with business strategy. So we touched on that a little bit already, but you know, businesses either have a digital transformation roadmap or are looking to do one. And really that should incorporate things like the type of functionality that they want to see, looking at short-term versus long-term requirements and trying to cater for that in their review and looking at that roadmap. Businesses will be adopting different types of strategies depending on where they are at in their business life cycle. So if it's growth or whether they're looking to diversify, and some businesses at the moment are looking to consolidate, and others are looking to decentralize. So given the current economy, there's quite a few different approaches happening depending on what industry people are in as to how that impacts their foresight for the next 2 to 5 years. So it's really interesting to see businesses and what they're looking at doing. It really does need to be a holistic approach to their system architecture. It's very difficult at this point in time, I guess, with the technology changes we've seen even since COVID, for businesses to really just focus on one aspect of what they're doing. They need to be thinking about that impact across the other systems within the business, across their people in the business who are using these systems, and looking for ways to really increase that efficiency. We've got AI coming in, and that really needs to start forming part of this digital transformation roadmap for business strategy, to consider where, you know, these systems are developing AI within their processes. So it's understanding for each business, where is that importance for that business to have AI really strongly contributing in the system that is right for them, and then the overall aspect of that. So yeah, it's important to really consider business strategy when you're looking at this.
Yeah, and one thing that's not on the slide there that I'd also bring to the audience's attention is cost. Cost is a huge consideration for everyone in business, because we're all in business to make money, but you need to spend money, especially in digital transformation spaces. And there's a misconception out there that it's really expensive to do that. So part of your cost considerations is having a look at your system architecture and finding out what you can archive and actually get out of. So having that roadmap, as KK was mentioning, you might go, okay, in 2 years, this license is going to expire and we're going to roll out of that system and bring in the new system at that point, because it may not be well, we want a new payroll system today, but it may not be the most cost-effective decision that you can make for your business. So when we come in and have a look at your system architecture, we can actually consider the costs that are involved for you as well for that transition. So it definitely is a transition of your system as it is today and your system as you want it to be in 5 years' time.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so let's say, for instance, an organisation, and some of the people on today's call no doubt have gone through this, and so they're thinking, oh, well, here's some technology. This could be okay. I mean, at what point do they need to start considering running an RFP or a tender or an RFQ? I mean, what are the considerations there? What do you think that people really want to be starting to think about in that early journey?
And I think it's the most easiest question to answer, James, because I go, as soon as you have that thought that you want to implement a new system, is the time to go, or the decision is made that you want to run with a new system. Running an RFP process, and especially with us by your side saying, you know, culling through all the myriad of systems that you could look at, waste a lot of time on, because sometimes clients bring us in after they've spent 6 months investigating 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 systems that just aren't fit for purpose. Running an RFP process is such a streamlined approach to finding a system that suits you. It's best fit, my language, best fit for your specific roadmap. And then also, you don't, just because you go and run an RFP process, that doesn't mean you have to commit and implement that. It just means that you've identified the best systems for yourself and for your business. And then you can go, right, that is the best fit for us. We want to bring it in. But then that's when it comes back to having a look at that whole system architecture as to when's the best time to bring that in. So the easiest answer for when to run an RFP process is when you're deciding to implement a new one.
Yeah, and I imagine to both of you, I mean, people probably make a number of, I mean, not deliberate mistakes, but in preparing the information they require out to, you know, to those technology providers that they might be considering, that some of the information that they're preparing in those RFPs may not necessarily actually align to what they want, you know, ultimately the goal of the project to be able to deliver. So there's probably some key areas in there, isn't there, where you can really be able to offer some practical advice, thoughts, tips, what's gone right, what hasn't gone right previously, to be able to then weed out potentially what are going to be some of the issues there, to really get to the nub of whether the technology that's being considered is actually going to be right for their organisation. I suppose that's a pretty fair assumption.
Yeah, and the reality is, sorry, I'll jump in on this one. The reality of it is that most people on the call or people who watch this will sit there and they'll understand you've made a decision to go and have a look at something. You write down some notes, some key notes of what you want it to do. You go and search, you AI it, you Google it, you say, does this system does this? What systems do this best? but you're really restricted in those small details that you're providing. With an RFP process, we really get into the nuts and bolts of actually how you want it to work, and then find the best system for that, because cost, budget, time, resource, everything comes into consideration in an RFP process, and also your current position with staff, your projected position as to how you want it to look like and function for. So yeah,
I think what we've seen as well, you know, there are businesses that are looking to obviously save costs in embarking on this process, and they try to do it in-house. So they try to identify the right systems by using an internal person, like a business analyst or somebody who sits in that area of functionality within the business. And the thing that they miss by doing that is the exposure, as you mentioned, James, that we've had to different systems out there and the different quirks, you know, that happen with those. One example that we've seen, just hopefully that helps people relate to that message, is, you know, a system that couldn't actually capture the full length of a general ledger account and all its segments to be able to be taking information and transferring those costs that were related to those GL codes into another system. So unfortunately, that business had gone through a whole RFP process with an internal person looking at 5 different options and 5 different types of software. So it was a massive program of implementation, and this one piece couldn't actually cope with the business's general ledger structure. So it had to get dropped on the way through the implementation, and it caused a bit of chaos along the way. So I think for the important recommendation here for businesses is you're investing in marketing, you're investing in research, you're investing in your employees. Please see digital transformation as an area where you need to appropriately invest in the research that you are doing to embark on, you know, implementing new systems. It's not a low cost exercise to implement a new system, and you need to make sure that you are getting it right. So some upfront investment in time to review the right systems that have the right fit is really important to do, and not just leave it to somebody searching out there and hoping they land on the right system. We also have a lot of knowledge around the vendors, that what industries they specialize in, what size businesses they specialize in, what types of, you know, for HR and payroll, what types of employee setup they specialize in. And they're not things that everybody is just going to know. So we build a lot of relationships to ensure we're across that knowledge for our clients as well. So yeah, lots of things to.
Yeah, and the other thing I'd add is the independence, and it might get into the next slide or the next topic for you, James, but it's the independence that we bring. We don't come with a particular program that we're running for you, as you've bought a license with us and you now have this particular program. And then when you speak to that person, they'll go, oh, well, over here in our system, we can make this work and we can bring this add-in in, and that's more sales for us because that's better for us. KK and I are definitely very independent and very open at exploring the best fit options for your systems without having any bias to an existing system. So we're very agnostic and very removed from that. We're very independent. So that would be another avenue that I would say, if you're talking to your existing software providers, unless you've assessed that that is the best fit software for that next module that you're trying to take on, an RFP process can actually highlight completely different systems that will, most of them integrate and can be configured to speak autonomously to each other easily now. But yeah, it might sit outside the current wheelhouse that you have. So
yeah, it's a great point, because current relationships with vendors will definitely recommend what they've got available, and it may not always be the best.
And we've seen that, haven't we? So yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I'd imagine that is a common thing that you would see across organizations. People have vendor relationships. They think, oh, well, maybe that vendor can just be able to help us be able to do that. In actual fact, what they probably need is an independent view.
Yeah.
And I think the word you used there is correct, agnostic, being able to actually look at something and say, with the full lens of all the experience that you've had in different sectors, different technology, different industries, looking at it going, well, actually, is that the best fit really, not only for, I guess, what's going on today, but is this actually going to be something that's going to be right for you, moving forward for a long period of time? Because as you, I think, rightfully mentioned, you've got a lot of resources within your organization that you need to consider. The timelines to be able to implement it's going to be, sometimes, quite long. And the investment as an organization is going to be considerable. So really getting it right from that very start is critically important.
Yeah.
And so really, I think they're the main things that I just wanted to cover in today's session, just given the times that we have. The additional sessions that we will have over the coming weeks and months will then start, getting into more detail onto the types of resources that are available that you're going to be able to need and think about in terms of an RFP or adopting new technology. The KPIs that you actually need to be able to set and selecting it. What are you measuring for success? How are you going to be able to do that effectively? And how to be able to do the implementation. So I'm really looking forward to those sessions. Before we close off today, was there anything else that you thought that you might want to be able to just touch on with the audience?
Don't think you're alone. There's help out there for you to do it. Don't be egotistical and think that you have to do it. You have to come up with the right answer. Asking for help is sometimes the best option.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say that. I think, to everything you've said there today, look, for the people on call, you don't have to be doing this yourself. There are specialist organizations, and K2 are definitely one of those that can actually independently go in, have a look at what you're doing, talk with your team, align what you're trying to do from a business strategy right into your technology, architecture and stack, looking at it holistically, understanding agnostically, okay, what is it that you're looking to be able to do? What are you looking to achieve? And then being able to put some set processes in place to be able to do that effectively. So I think that for anyone on call today that would like to be able to have some early advice, please get in touch with K2. I think they'll be able to certainly help you. There'll be links to be able to get in touch with KK and KT separately, and so we'll send those through. But to both of you, thank you very much for your time today. I'm certainly looking forward to the next sessions that we have, and then also the Q&A, the major Q&A session that we'll have, undoubtedly with a whole bunch of different questions that people will be asking you about their specific challenges that they're occurring.
Right, thanks, James.
Yeah, thank you so much, James.
No problem at all. Thanks to everybody that's joined us today, wherever you are. Have a fantastic day. And we look forward to you joining our future sessions as they are hosted. Appreciate it. Thank you.